Ulonka tabati yada to ye kuma daifa. Ino to ye ko je love bipa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Zongo eshu, ogun oya osun. Kini sheshe, tan she nile yo. O jelo jara.
Alafia, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Arisha Bemi, and we are back, tribe. Shout out to everybody who made it to the marathon on, I think that was Thursday or Friday. Everybody made it to the marathon, man. Shout out to everybody who, new subscribers, new channel member subscribers, new Patreon member subscribers. Shout out to all the new people who have, joined us over the last 3 or 4 days, man, from showing all the love and support. We definitely appreciate that. In the comments, everybody dropping the jewels, sharing the links, and it's been a lot, man. So I give gratitude and thanks to each and every one of y'all, and shout out to everybody who made it to the private call yesterday. That was another powerful one. So I give gratitude. And with that, brother Bdell, what's good with you, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. You know, just trying to keep up with the world's happenings. It's so much going on. So we finna make everything make sense tonight. So
like we always do about this time. Yes, sir. we got the war report and Mamageddon and Armageddon all in one right now.
Facts.
Yes,
all
sir. Yep. So with that, man, I ain't even gonna waste no time. Let's just dive right into it. So with the war trends and all the different things that have taken place since the last time we spoke, I think last week, what do you feel like we were looking at now from a metaphysical, deep dive and, looking at it from the melanated mind's eye?
Well, what's taking place right now, we're going to be in the midst of a psychological operation that is going to be amplified and facilitated by Iran. Now, Iran, all they have to do is cut off the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is what controls the great majority of energy and the great majority of the oil on the planet. So that would compromise, the financial markets in America in totality. So you're looking at a societal collapse that can basically happen. And when you're talking about, the PSYOPs that's coming from the deep state shadow government that is also acclimated to the, democracy. Now, when you're talking about the deep state is really the embodiment of the shadow government. So you have the New Republic, which is the Trump administration. They're basically going to war. It's like a war within the war that's interconnected to, the political apparatus. So you got, the Republican Party, the Trump administration going against the deep state shadow government that does all the trafficking, the organ harvesting, and all the hedonistic practices that come from, Canaanite culture. There's a book that you gotta read called The Blue-Eyed Beast. The Blue-Eyed Beast, it gets into the inception of democracy and where it basically stems from, because when you look at the word democracy, it really translates to demonstrative government, because when you look at the suffix of the word krasi, it means kratos, and kratos is chronology, where it keeps you trapped inside of a artificial time analysis mechanism. And the demo system of democracy is the demonstrative government. The demonstrative government that's basically it's like a cosplay. It's a cosplay government that is connected to human trafficking, drug trafficking, eugenics, anything that's basically connected to a form of extracting DNA. So when you have the New Republic, all this is based on the processional circle of the equinox. As I was saying, you cannot have a democracy in the sun cycle, because the sun cycle has to be controlled by the star Polaris that's interconnected to the age of Aquarius. So the lunar doctrine is starting to phase out. So that's why you see the two celestial bodies of the sun and the moon out at the same time, because the planet's going back into its original balance. So that is basically the cosmic pendulum when you understand the cosmic clock and things of that nature. But what's taking place right now coincides with the celestial bodies, and the celestial bodies is basically controlling the whole blueprint for the political system. So the deep state, like I said, that is nothing but Canaanite culture. Canaanite culture, those that was cursed with leprosy. Now, when you go to the Denver airport, it shows you a mural. Yeah, it shows you the whole mural. It shows you the revelation for what is to come in the near future. And but it's basically perpetuating the story in the form of art form. And it shows you the leopard. The leopard is basically the personification of those that was cursed with leprosy, which is an energy signature for disobedience. So the ones that was cursed with leprosy is what's controlling the great majority of politics, Hollywood, everything that's connected to the mainstream media. That is basically the embodiment of the Canaanite, which is the Ashkenazi Jew over in Israel. So when you're looking at the mural over in the Denver airport, it's showing you the whole story. It shows you the phoenix rising for the ashes, which is basically the resurrection of the matriarch. And there's going to be some type of alignment that's going to be taking place pretty soon on Easter. That's going to be the amplification process of the Christ consciousness. It's the star constellation of Regulus that's going to be in alignment with the Sphinx in the pyramids of Giza. And that energy in itself is going to create metaphysical telluric patterns. And the telluric patterns in itself is what hits the magnetic field of the planet and where you're going to see a burst of energy. So don't be surprised around that time you're going to be seeing like the aurora borealis. Like I'm talking about like extreme green. Like when you go outside, when you see the sky's blue, don't be surprised if you see the sky's green. Because there's a new energy, there's a new intelligence that's coming to the planet.
Yeah.
So
that's the green, like Goody Mob used to say.
Facts. That's why, you know, Osiris, they used to call him El Qadir. El Qadir is also known as the green one. And the green one in itself is also the embodiment of gamma radiation. Gamma radiation, that's how, melanite children. And then that's why Hulk in itself, you know, he got the great majority of his energy from gamma radiation.
Yeah.
That was the transmutation of power.
It's funny because I remember how you broke down Superman on the last one, but we didn't mention Hulk. You know, Hulk is also tied to Ogun too. So there's a lot of different type of metaphoric alignments within that movie and that series, for real. And you know, I didn't think about last time we spoke, but yeah, you're right when it comes to the different alignments with all this energy and stuff, because all the people who work in the healing spaces or the Reiki healers, or you know, the people who are doing any type of healing type of work, everybody who I've spoken to, like we've all been under this kind of like not necessarily a fog, but kind of like a real sluggish, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like just not really wanting to be bothered doing a whole lot because of like being inundated by a lot of energy. And I think it has to deal with all these different solar flares, all these different planetary alignments, the red blood moon, and all these different things happening. It definitely does take a toll on you energetically, spiritually, and I feel like psychologically as well. So what is the significance of the one that's coming up? And does that have the potential to activate some sort of like these supercells, you know, the people who have this Ashe or this energy, you know, and the ability to tap in? Because there's been some people that I've been seeing doing some very powerful things and even commenting on it here in the channel as well.
Well, just based on that alignment, that is going to be really, you know, the precursor to what they call the Christ energy. Because right now, even though right now we have Uranus in conjunction with Gemini, and Gemini is in alignment with Thoth, who is Tahuti, who is also Cancer Kodo, that is also equated to the heart chakra. So the energy that's coming in collaborated with, you know, the star of Regulus. That is going to be, you know, I guess you can see during that time period, you can get an influx of neutrinos. Remember, we were talking about the Holy Ghost particles. So so it's not a coincidence at this time right now, because a CME and an EMP have there's a diametrical difference between the two, but they have the same ability. So like an EMP, it could shut down the electrical grid system, but a CME has the ability to do the same thing as well. So the neutrinos that's coming in, they can create some type of war in the midst of, you know, these coronal mass ejections that's coming in. They can just be like, it wasn't, you know, a CME, it was an EMP, it was Iran that did it. So it's kind of like you're looking at a physical war trying to combat the spiritual war at the same time. That's what it looks like.
That's what it is. And what's nuts about that, excuse me, is that I saw some reports during the week where some of the soldiers who was pissed off about getting those orders to go overseas, pretty much, I guess some of them were whistleblowers, and they blew the whistle stating that, you know, it really didn't make no sense, and they agreed with all the stuff that the media was saying in regards to, you know, the war happening and him going at war, striking and all that. But what was said that some of them leaked or blew the whistle on is that they said it was a holy war. They said it was a spiritual war. That's what their marching orders was. Like, this is the holy war, the Armageddon, the Christ return. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how much of that from somebody who I know does a lot of deep research and who, you know, you stay locked in with finding information, how do you feel about that? I know we spoke about it off there, but do you feel like there's any truth that they could have access to information from some of the Area 51s and you know what I'm saying, like the Dotes in Mexico, you know, all these different secret sites that they have a lot of different activity going on, whether it's extraterrestrial or, you know what I mean, like a lot of different types of beings and I feel like encounters that they've dealt with. I feel like there might be some truth to it, or it's just a psyop coming from the shadow.
Oh, there's definitely some truth to it. You got to look into the 72 demons of Goetia, which is the cryptids. There's a reason why when you go to national parks, they close after a certain time, because a lot of these national parks, they're basically gateways to Nightmare Hall. Dr. York, he extrapolates that information inside of his publications. And Nightmare Hall is just really a cavern system where they got the great majority of these entities that basically amalgamated with the Nephilim over the course of time. So like I tell people all the time, like, you know, they try to say a lot of these mythological creatures in the Bible is actually fake, but you know, like a unicorn is really a Nephilim mating with a horse, and that's what you get. That's the outcome of it. You get unicorns, you get Mothman, many different what is it, the New Jersey Devil, skinwalkers. These things are real, but at the same time, I don't know if, you know, if we're in that time point right now to where they're going to start, you know, coming from the caverns of the earth right now. But when you look in certain parts of the Holy Quran, it talks about a mass sacrifice that can happen. It's called the smorgasbord event. Even Dr. York, he talks about it in his publication. Because, you know, the planet has to go through a resetting process, because you just don't have a reset from a financial standpoint, political standpoint, economic standpoint. You have to have a humanitarian reset as well. And that means, like I said, so the war could be also used as a catalyst to cut off, you know, the unalive, you know, a lot of people.
I mean, you know, they're looking at it. Well, they're trying to start an extinction level event, is what it seems like to me. Like that's what I'm picking up on. Like they're trying to create any type of atrocities or mass hysteria, you know what I mean, to kind of create this so-called extinction level event. But I don't really see it happening the way they foresee it. You know, if that's what they're doing, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to go the way they think it's going to go. I can tell you that.
Especially in the United States, from just looking at Iran. All they got to do is cut off the Strait of Hormuz, and it's over. That's where you're going to have the energy and resource crisis.
And he's already done it, really, because pretty much they said anybody that goes through there, they're going to get blown up. So now that's where they're fighting, I guess, to get Navy ships to kind of escort, you know, the boats and all that. But I don't really see that happening, man, because they too strapped up on them borders over there.
Most definitely.
That's nuts. You know, and I don't think we ever discussed the Denver airport together on the show, but that's something that I wish we would have gotten into. But since you brought that up, to me, I feel like that's their version of hieroglyphs from the dark side. Like they created, you know, them murals, and you know what I'm saying? Because they're telling a lot of stories, and you have to be somebody who's really tapped in with metaphysics to be able to decode what they're showing and what they're sharing. But they're saying some real things, and if I'm not mistaken, it's alleged that that's also a spaceport where a lot of the, you know, extraterrestrials come in and out of there, especially the ones that, you know, that they're affiliated with.
And then on top of that, from a headquarters standpoint, Washington D.C. is no longer the headquarters for the United States Corporation. That's why they took the D.C. off. If you look at the maps, I don't know if they probably put it on there because people was catching on, but I had a screenshot and I did a transmission on it. If you look at Washington, D.C., they took the D.C. off because eventually Denver, where the airport is, that's where it's going to be the headquarters for the United States government. And then you also got Cheyenne Mountain that's connected to the Denver airport when you're talking about these underground cavern systems. And then also when you look at that mural, it shows you the resurrection of the indigenous woman, which is basically the embodiment of the resurrection of the matriarch on the Denver airport as well. Like it tells you the whole story. It shows you the leopard laying in the middle, like you basically defeated. That is those that was cursed with leprosy. That is the blue-eyed beast.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So so definitely this is a spiritual war that's going on.
And it goes back to I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the four horsemen are on that mural as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had the four horsemen or something like that. And then Doc, Freedom Master Teacher, he had that, and I know I've seen it on your channel multiple times. But you know, there's that image that he has in several of his texts where it has like the all the heads of the beast, the mark of the beast, and then you can see your boy DT in there. He has like that leopard like skin, or suit or something like that around him, if I'm not mistaken, in some of the books from that. Yeah, so
and I'm glad you brought that up, because the four horsemen of the apocalypse is also the representation of earth, air, water, and fire, collaborated with the dodecahedron, which is ether, which is also gamma radiation.
Yes.
So that's why, so that in itself is from a metaphysical standpoint and from an energy standpoint, the four horsemen of the apocalypse is actually, talking about the resurrection of elements that sparks the big one. When you're talking about earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, sedimentary rock formation, all that stuff comes from the resurrection from the ether, which is also the Christ energy. So especially during that time period where you have the star Regulus in alignment with the Sphinx over in Egypt and the Giza Plateau and things of that nature, that energy in itself can spark an ecological humanitarian crisis.
Oh yeah, and Regulus, that star is a powerful star as well, because it's a very bright star. I look at it. There's not too many stars that I feel like that have the level of brightness, the luminescence that one does. It's that one, Vega, of course, Orion's Belt, and Sirius. But that one even reminds me. Sometimes I have to get my little map out or my app or whatever to see, because it reminds me of Venus too. Because Venus gets very bright, within like an eye's reach, from us seeing here on the planet as well. So it's definitely a lot of light coming from that thing for sure. Yes, but somebody said, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you good.
I was gonna say I saw somebody in here who was talking about. It's funny because this was one of the movies that we was gonna get into with decoding. Voice Art with Zay said decoded the Siege movie from 1998 last night. Was wild. So many parallels. Hey, Voice Art was there. I can't wait to share our collective kin number, because we went through that yesterday. Shout out to OJ Yemi. She did a dope presentation with the kin numbers and learning our star charts and solar seals, and it was dope. And the channel, I did one for the channel, and I can't wait to share that with the tribe. But it's so dope how the alignments tie in with the type of people that watch the show and what the show itself is representing in regards to the kin number. I think I sent you me and you
you did.
Yeah, so it's dope to see the alignment, man. But yeah, so Voice Art was there. Appreciate you. So you was just talking about that one, man. That's one of the ones you actually listed. So what do you feel about Siege and how that ties into what we're dealing with right now?
Well, Siege is it shows you the Islamic State, and they basically infiltrate America. So now from a metaphysical standpoint and from a biblical standpoint, you're talking about the cicadas. The cicadas are the locusts, and the locust is a representation of an invasion that's going to happen. So it's
and real locusts actually have hit the shores already, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like in the Northeast or something. If I'm not mistaken.
That's what I was saying. Like, so that's what it represents. It represents invasion from the inside. So we're looking at, nature is speaking right now, just even the birds. Bro, I went out, me and my lady, we went to the store and, to grab some groceries and stuff. The birds is out at like 10, 11 p.m.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they chirping early. Yeah. And it sound like, I was like, it's like this birds be chirping like this when it's like, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., right when you about to get up, what I'm saying, get your, your kids ready for school and stuff. But that's how I know something is off.
Yeah.
And that's how you know that there's going to be an invasion taking place. So according to the movie, it shows you how the Islamic State invaded America, and then they had like a lot of psychological operations, and they was bombing a lot of the buildings inside of New York. So there's an invasion that can actually take place. Even when you look at the St. Peter's Cathedral, it shows you like a mural and carvings of psychological operations that's going to be taking place in the future. It shows you the breaking of the Brooklyn Bridge. It shows you how the Twin Towers fell. And I believe that the St. Peter's that mural and everything that they created, that came out like in the 1990s.
Yeah, it's not that old. It's not that old at all.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely see that happening because it's just a lot. And I think the thing about it is a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they're planning is, and they're doing it right in right in front sight for everybody to see. But the thing about it, I don't know how many of us are really tapped into it. So I know another one of the movies you spoke about was Red Dawn. How does Red Dawn tie into what we're seeing right now in regards to the PSYOPs?
Well, in the one that came out, I think it was 1984. It's got Patrick Swayze in it. In that one, that's when you had the invasion of the Russians. And then on the newer one, I think that came out in 2010. That's when you had the invasion of the Koreans. And so it's really showing you the alignments of what's taking place when you're talking about Gog and Magog in the Bible, according to Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. And that's basically the unification process of Iran, who is modern day Persia, China, Russia, North Korea, and all these other militarized groups that's coming together to basically fight and overthrow Israel that is controlling America.
Yeah, and it's funny because shout out to Big Chief. When we was on here chopping up the other day, he was saying too, he was like, it's not just the US. He was like, it's really 13 different, nations or 13 different heads that's kind of all tied in together with this whole, plot with this foolishness that's going on. So let me ask you this. In regards to the control and the sheer just made them their bitch, how did Israel get a stronghold over the U.S. government, and what is the power structure that they have over the so-called U.S. government?
Well, a lot of the biblical titles in America, like as far as like the cities or whatever that you speaking in the Bible, a lot of those cities is actually connected to this landmass. So when you're talking about modern day Babylon, you're talking about America, because Babylon is the Assyrian Empire that was connected to Nineveh. And it tells you in Jonah chapter 3, verse 5, that Nineveh shall be overthrown. So if America is modern day Babylon, and then you got the blue-eyed beast, who is the Canaanite, controlling the great majority of the infrastructure of America, that pretty much, translates to the fact that, Israel is a big influence on America. Because, the Jewish infrastructure, they control, the great majority of the banks. They control the great majority of the financial system. They control everything in the media. They control it all. Because for one, just because of, America in itself is an energy signature. So they know that the most influential people come from this area. They know that the Christ that they speak about in the so-called Bible is going to come from the Americas. So that's how in real time, like, so that's why they have a stronghold on America so much. It's basically another way to stagnate the energy and to stagnate the unification process of the matriarch. Because it all starts with us first. Once we wake up, everybody here wakes up, that's when the whole world wakes up. Because we're basically the standard in the blueprint for what is to come in the future. Because, everybody copies Americans. Specifically, so-called Black Americans.
Melanated. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We the nucleus, man. Like for real, And then I've heard from the elders, they said the sun the sun rises in the east and it's set in the west, or the sun rises in the west and it's set in the east. But I can't remember which one, but that's a real thing that's happening now. And I feel like they know it, but I'm still trying to like process, because I haven't done a lot of deep dives and research on this. But so now we're talking about the hierarchy of the power of control of this patriarchal system that's dead and decaying and molding and all that. If I'm not mistaken, then we're going to start with the Vatican, right?
And
then we're going to go to, would it be going to England, or would it be coming to the U.S. after that, as far as like in the pecking order?
I would say Black nobility.
Which Vatican?
Vatican, Israel, the deep state, and then and specifically on top of that, you got the Archonic forces.
Okay.
So the Archons, Black nobility, the Archonic forces and Gnosticism, the Black nobility, and then you got the Vatican, Israel, the deep state shadow government, and then you got, your regular, politicians, such as, Donald Trump and, figures like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that makes sense too. So it goes right back to the, the rabbit hole goes right back to that nobility. So who are these archons? Where do they come from? And how did they develop to have this kind of power, control, and leverage over the planet?
Well, first we have to understand that planet Earth is a prison planet. It's another way to keep you in a perpetual state of reincarnation. So everything as far as like the religion here, the religion operates on the Sabbath, and the Sabbath in itself is connected to the moon, and the moon in itself is a spiritual soul trap, because the moon in itself is an artificial celestial megastructure that is being used to trap energy, because it basically extracts the energy from your emotions, which is why the moon is the embodiment of energy in motion. So that's why I keep telling people you got to be energetically balanced, because the archons, they can feed off your emotional energy. Like you have an emotional connection to sex, pornography, food, and things of that nature. And this is how they built their systems. And all those things, that methodology in itself is what controls the great majority of the eugenic systems that's connected to the corporation. So the corporation feeds off your energy. So it's basically like an energy exchange. Like let's just say you see a motherfucker, he's down on his luck from a financial standpoint, and he got to go draw blood to get some money. So that means that they created a system from an emotional system to trade in your divinity for cash.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You got to go to the sperm bank, or you got to get your plasma extracted so you can make some money, because you got to pay bills. So everything here is you live in a prison planet, just like when you go to jail, or when you get thrown in jail or whatever, you get thrown in there for battery. You get what I'm saying? And battery in itself is what? A Duracell. So the play on words in itself shows you that we live in a prison planet, and that they're using this system to extract our energy. Everything is energy harvesting. So that's why the corporations in itself is being used for genetical self-preservation for the Canaanite.
Yeah, and how does that tie into? I think it was you, if I'm not mistaken, that I saw that I was speaking about when we look at all the buildings, pretty much everything that we see, especially in America, is in the form of a square, right? And we know that the circle ties back into. Can you kind of share how that everything you just said, how that ties into the circle and the square in regards to control?
Yeah, because right now they call it square and circle, because the great majority of our atmosphere is made up of subatomic particles, and the subatomic particles is linked to the smallest unit in the universe, which is a Planck. So when you live in a pixelated simulation, the square is basically acclimated to the energy of the moon, because the moon is a representation of the square, and the circle is a representation of the sun, because the moon is a reincarnation portal, and the sun is a portal for ascension, for you to get back to the star Polaris, which is the cosmic energy mother, when you're talking about the resurrection of the 13 and the matriarchal energy. So when you're talking about squaring the circle and things of that nature or whatever, that's basically being used as a mechanism to trap energy. The square is what traps energy in itself. That's all it is. It's energy entrapment. You there?
Yeah, multitasking, and then the computer was acting up on me, trying to pull myself back on screen. But yeah, and that goes back into masonry as well. A lot of that ties into the significance of masonry. So let me ask you this, because I know for the most part, if you ask the collective, most people are going to say and raise their eyebrow to whether or not Masons and masonry is a dark, evil, secret society. From your perspective, what do you feel like, or how does the Masons tie into this whole dynamic?
Masonry is just inverted Freemasonic magic. That's all it is. It's inverted. It's draconian magic. That's all it is. Because just like you got the mock sacrifices, the Hiram Abiff rituals or whatever, all those rituals is connected to Canaanite culture. Just like when they got thrown out of Egypt, when they had to walk across the burning sands with the cable and tow. You see what I'm saying? That's why when you wear a tie, the tie is also a representation of the cable and tow. Just like when you have the pants leg up, that is also the representation of a vagabond. A vagabond is basically a nomad who doesn't have a homeland. because they was kicked out of everywhere. I was telling you about the movie Vampire in Brooklyn. They show you the inception of where they was kicked out of because, you know, they was doing a lot of things like cannibalism, and that's where the Eucharist ceremony came from. It came from Coptic culture, which is Canaanite culture. The Greeks,
Right.
Greco-Roman culture is basically the same thing. So a lot of that stuff that they was kicked out, and they used those rituals, mock rituals, and they apply it to Freemasonry.
Right.
So just like
but
yeah.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say a lot of the stuff that they using, they stole from Kemet though, right?
Yeah, a lot of it, but it's like I said, it's inverted draconian magic.
Got you.
All they doing is just reversing it.
Using it for the other way. They're using it for the dark versus the good, pretty much.
Like just like when you stand on your square, right? That creates a 47. It's a 90-degree angle, but it creates a 47-degree angle. And the 47-degree is the 47 prime of Euclid, which is the representation of man, woman, and child. Isis, Osiris, Horus. See what I'm saying? So it's really our knowledge, but they just all they doing is inverting it. That's all it is.
Just taking it.
Then they apply monotheistic religion to it, such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and all those religions. They have a veneration for the cube, which is the cube of Saturn, which is Satan. So
that's that black one over there in right. Where is that? Is that in Jerusalem? That black cube?
Yeah,
where's that located?
Kaaba. Yeah, it's in Mecca.
Mecca, okay. Got you.
It's the Kaaba. Yeah. But see, it goes all the way back to the square because the square is connected to the moon, the Sabbath.
Right.
It's spiritual entrapment, reincarnation. Because anytime you confine yourself to an ideology, you're basically in a form of stagnation. Just imagine, you know, when you're a little kid and you taking a bath, you know what I'm saying, that the reason why the water gets so dirty and decrepit or whatever, because it doesn't have no flow. It's just still. That's what religion does to you. Because there's not a flow of energy. And it's also coincides with super chiasmatic nucleus, to where you have a holographic cube over the brain. It's like a form of spiritual entrapment. That's why when you speak to certain Christians or whatever, they can't think outside that ideology. They can't think outside the box, because the box in itself is being used to confine your energy. That's why they say think outside the box. You know, that's where that whole philosophy comes from.
That's facts, though. Shout out to Chloe there. Happy belated birthday, family. It's all good. We'll definitely have to replay up expeditiously. But and you know, I'm not going to just limit that to Christianity either, brother Bdell, because I feel like that's all religions. If you're in a religion and you feel like it's only your way and your way is the only way and the best way, that right there, to me, it kind of puts you in that same box, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of different, verses. You remember in the conscious community back in the day, you know what I'm saying, you had the Israelites versus, you know what I'm saying, versus this group and that group and that. So it's like, I feel like no matter what, it's like there's always a level of contraption or a level of kind of stuck in the box or stuck in place whenever we kind of condemn ourselves from being open to at least listening and hearing about something else, you know what I'm saying, or at least putting some respect on it, because at the end of the day, everything to me, I feel like it's from the same universal prime creator, just depending on what part of the land or the world that it was kind of, I guess, normalized in. That's where most people are going to be attracted to, or they're going to be influenced by, period. Shout out to Uno, like, show me somebody or tell me what you know that nobody else knows.
As far as like
anything.
Like from religion,
it's not a question to you, but just in general, like that's like she stated that on the call we did Saturday, but pretty much she was saying everything that we've learned pretty much from somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like there was some sort of human influence over all the things that we all have within our mind. Now, don't get me wrong, like a lot of us do have the ability to meditate and tap in and go, to higher realms of consciousness and to astral project, you know what I'm saying, bring back information or bring back visions and things of that nature. But as far as from a human being standpoint, everything that we pretty much all been taught was given to us or influenced by somebody else. You know what I'm saying? It starts with our parents. So it's like at the end of the day, if you don't have the ability to kind of remove yourself from thinking everything has to be the way you see it, then I feel like that's gonna put like a blockage into the opportunity for growth and elevation, because if you're only doing one thing, then I don't feel like, you know, the chances of you elevating or rising and going forward in different ways and being multidimensional are very slim to none. And I feel like that's what's happening with a lot of people who are kind of under that box, that lock and key, you know, with Christianity and several other religions.
Facts.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, okay. So, the 1984, the George Orwell movie and book. What is the time? I should not say timeline, but what is the tie into what we're seeing now in this current time to that movie?
Now that coincides with artificial intelligence, because it's one of those things where in 1984 is where they created a cybernetic dystopia to basically create a lot of NPCs. So it shows you an amalgamation of people who don't have the ability to think for themselves, and we're living in that time right now. I forgot what the guy's name was, a scientist. He said the year 2026 is the last year for authenticity.
Yeah, I believe it.
And that's why I said think for yourself while it's still legal to.
Yeah,
that's why I said, because eventually in itself, thinking for yourself is really what they call the Christ energy.
Yeah,
that is Christ consciousness. That is basically the blueprint for your authenticity. So you don't have no authentic energy if you don't have the ability to create an independent thought. Because if you cannot think, you can't write. If you can't write, they're going to put a system in play to do the thinking and the writing for you. And that's what I call the artificial intelligence archonic regime. That's what it's basically used for. That's like, you know, earbuds. Earbuds in itself, they're used as a mechanism to steal your brain waves. Right? Because remember, artificial intelligence doesn't have the ability to create. It moves off the energy and the vibration of humans. And then when you go to the Gnostic text, it talks about how the Archons, they don't create, they mimic human behavior. That's what AI does. It's the same thing. So these Nephilim, these archonic forces, the shadow government that makes these covenants in the exchange with these dark forces, that's what that's basically talking about.
Yeah, that's facts too. And it even goes back to I don't know about in your state, but I know in Florida they actually removed a lot of the handwriting exercises and training, you know, skills or tests and, you know, teaching in schools. Like they don't even have like you know, handwriting classes, and you know what I'm saying? Like they just, and it's nuts, because if you think about it, when we're constantly texting on the phones or on the tablets or the computers or what have you, it does kind of like get that muscle memory kind of weak, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to spelling words and all that, because we're so comfortable with being able to use autocorrect. Like I was trying to spell the word transcendence the other day, and sometimes I'll get in my mind where I'll get into a fight with them because, like, nah, I ain't about to look it up. Like, you're gonna have to figure it out, you know what I'm saying? Look inside and figure it out, because, you know, you're gonna get comfortable on that. What happens if you don't have AI? You don't have, you know what I'm saying, the technology, like how you gonna, you know, get that stuff done? So it's definitely a real thing, man, for real. They definitely are doing any and everything they can to keep us tapped into these electronic surfaces.
And that coincides with the movie 1984, because they show you in that movie everybody was throwing out their books. You're supposed to be reading and writing as much as possible right now. The more they amplify artificial intelligence, that's when you should start reading and writing even more. They show you in the movie they throwing out books, like there's no use for books no more, because everybody is tether connected to the artificial AI system. You know, so that's where that movie comes in.
So when we start talking about all these different types of warfare, you know, they got like the sound warfare, they got, of course, the biological warfare, you know, with the food and the environment, you know, all that stuff. What is the significance of, these elf towers? You know, the elf towers that they have, I don't know if they do it where you at, but down here they even try to make it's crazy, but they even try to make them look like trees. Like they literally have put fake leaves and fake branches off these elf towers to try to make us, I guess, not pay attention to them. What do you feel like the significance of all these different elf towers and what they're using to weaponize them?
Oh, that is another way to extract neurons from the body, because you just don't have neurons in your brain. You got neurons all over your body. And then that also coincides with the movie Paradise. Paradise is where you had the collapse of civilization, and then you had an artificial system. So you had artificial trees. They had trees that looked like satellites and things of that nature. So that movie is actually acclimated to the timeline that we're basically in right now. So it shows you like just an artificial system to keep you disconnected from nature, because in itself, you know, artificial intelligence and all these satellites and EMF wave frequencies is being used as a weapon to throw off your proprioception perception that's acclimated to your biorhythm.
Yeah, it's definitely a real thing. And as far as the ability to protect yourself from like these different types of waves, rays, and all that, because even like the Wi-Fi routers, aren't those extremely harmful as well, as far as the the EMF waves?
The great majority of technology is pretty much it's what I call light code lockdown. When you go to Job chapter 38 verse 31, it talks about light code lockdown, and cryogenic technology is technological devices. All this stuff is being used to lock down your DNA.
Right. How important is meditating and unplugging and tapping in with nature in order to kind of still connect with source?
Oh, it's important because that creates a reset in the mind. I do most of my meditation when I'm in a sauna or if I'm in a steam room. But everybody got their own methodology. There's no right or wrong way on how to do meditation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some people, you could just sit straight in a bed. You can do cross your legs. Everybody got their own methodology. They got their own rituals that they do that works for them. So just do what works for you when it comes to like meditation.
Right. And then how is like people like that indulge with different types of recreational drugs, like whether it could be weed or it could be alcohol or it could be, what I'm saying, like the perks, the mollies, the the lean, all that other stuff. How relevant is that stuff when it comes to opening yourself up to being attacked or being infiltrated by these dark forces and dark energies?
Oh, it definitely plays a big part because it weakens your vessel. Because I was telling you, we live in a prison planet where it basically extracts energy. When you stop watching porn, you take your energy back. When you stop smoking and drinking, you take your mind back. When you start working out and going to the gym, you get your discipline back. When you start making money, that's when you're going to get your confidence back. So all these things that I was basically talking about, that's how you tap into your Christ energy. Because those forms of methodology is connected to the 4 basic elements of the soul, which is thinking, reasoning, understanding, and willpower. All that comes from the heart chakra, which is the Hootie, who is stove. Gemini in a unification with Uranus, that's the Christ energy. So when it comes to smoking and drinking and all this other stuff, like if you just can't get away from it, just basically do it in moderation to the point where you start to weed yourself out. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing wrong with smoking. You know what I'm saying? Every once in a while I smoke cigars. That's as far as I go. But everybody has smoked a little marijuana before, but the marijuana has also been weaponized because it creates more aromatase levels in the body, and it transmutes the testosterone into estrogen.
Yep. And they've been doing that too. They're not going to do anything that could have a significant positive impact and then allow it to be distributed among the masses. If they don't have a way of weaponizing it and making any type of currency or revenue off of it, generating, some money off of it, and not just and being able to weaponize it to do something that's detrimental to society, it ain't happening. So the minute that I saw that they were going to actually start legalizing it, we already knew then, like, okay, they're doing something. Like, they ain't going to just give us anything that we know is natural, that's actually got, a lot of natural healing abilities, you know what I mean? All that. So they had to weaponize it and figure out how they can monetize it.
I made this post a long time ago. I swear I was probably I was in college still. And it's around like when Twitter first came out. I said the millisecond that they tell people that weed is illegal, that's when you should stop smoking it.
That's facts.
That's when you should stop smoking it. Because you know what I'm saying? It's almost like something is wrong. Like this is how a lot of things is really fucked up, because like you can go to McDonald's and get $1 cheeseburger. Come on now, like that should tell you it's something wrong with it. That should tell you right there is like it's some type of compromise, with the great majority of the food and the drugs, because a lot of the food and the drugs is really biochemicalization. So you're not addicted to the food, you're addicted to the chemicals that's in the food and the drugs. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just double dipping. It's a you know, a double dip effect because the food is definitely bioengineered, and you know we got fruit that we have no seeds. Like it's crazy. When I I was in Ghana, and I was tearing that fruit up, man, because they got real fruit, and they was laughing at me because that was pretty much all I was eating because bro, I can't make this up. They was laughing for real because I was tearing that fruit up. I'm talking about the mangoes, the apples, the oranges, the plums, the everything. I'm like, they was like,
they like, look at
it.
it.
I'm like, y'all got real fruit. I was like, we don't have real fruit. They couldn't believe me. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, there's no seeds in the fruit. Like, they literally are trying to kill us. Like, they was like, nah. But it was hard for them to believe, but that's a real thing, man. So it's like, there's nothing I feel like that they're going to give that's actually going to be beneficial, you know what I mean, for the enlightenment, sustainment, the nourishment, anything that has to do with elevation or growth, or even hell, just surviving, you know what I mean, especially in this particular corporation that we call a country.
Facts.
So it's a real thing.
They doing a lot of stuff with, biochemicalization or whatever, and it's being used to, to shut down DNA and to stop the indigenous demographic, from procreation.
Yeah, population control. So getting into some of the foolery on the stage that we call the U.S. government. Did you get a chance, or did you see any of the foolishness between Clinton and his wife and their little depositions or their little court appearances?
No, I didn't. I haven't. I seen like clips or whatever, but I didn't really like pay attention into it. I was too busy researching of trying to understand the timeline of Revelations and how it applies to like what's going on right now. So I've been doing a lot of deep diving, like trying to understand like what's taking place with Iran and why all this stuff is happening or whatever. So yeah,
right.
So I haven't really looked into that.
No, and I was asking. I saw it come across my timeline. But what I did see is like people are saying that they're clones too, and that's what made me ask the question because I know I've heard about the what's his name, the one that just left, Biden. He was, I guess, assassinated in 2019. I guess that might have been leaked in the files. He was assassinated in 2019. So the one that they had out here, I guess, so-called running the country was a clone, or somebody wearing a makeup, during the appearances or what have you. But I guess some people are saying that they have been gone for a while too, and so what we saw with them may also be clones. What's your take and perspective on clones?
Cloning is real. There's a base, or it's an organization called Clonad, and they have a genognostic philosophy, and they believe in cloning and things of that nature. In fact, a lot of the cloning is also connected to the movie Stranger Things. Because where that is in that area where it was at, like in Montauk, New York, you also got Lyme Island when they created the Lyme disease. Yeah, so in that area, especially in Montauk or whatever, when you get into the files or whatever, it talks about how they was doing a lot of genetic hybridization and genetic grafting. And then, this book right here, it tells you how the Canaanite, this book is called Blue-Eyed Beast. Got to read this book. If you want to understand the genetic format of the Canaanite, it goes in talking about how Canaanites can be genetically grafted because they don't have natural, they don't have a natural genetic makeup.
Yeah. And what exactly is a Canaanite?
A Canaanite is how can I say it? Because it's not just white Canaanites.
Right.
You got black ones too. So
are all of them the product of Jacob?
Yes.
They all
that's
are?
what he created. He created the inverted race. That's why he said, that's why Jacob, he said, I'm gonna create a people to rule over you for 6,000 years. Remember that?
Yeah.
And the 6,000 years is acclimated to the lunar cycle. Because when you read this book right here, well, I'm gonna just leave it up there because it's too many books to move. But when you read that book, it talks about how the human circulatory system has been thrown out of balance because the moon, the energy of the moon, is what put the planet under red alert for the last 6,000 to 12,000 years. So remember, when you look at the precessional circle of the equinox, you got a sun cycle, a lunar cycle, sun cycle. We in the last sun cycle. So the last 6,000 years, that's where Yaqub, he created the grafted devil. That's where he created the Canaanite. Because like I said, before you had white Canaanites, you had black Canaanites, then you had Dravidians, then you had the what is those called? Mongoloids and things of that nature. So
they came from over in the east, like Japan, China, that area, didn't they? Yeah. That's nuts. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole lot. Go ahead, man.
But yeah, most definitely, like cloning is a real thing, and it talks about how you can break down the genetic of the Canaanite because they have the 6 ether ghost spell, right? And the 6 ether in itself is where the hair follicle basically droops down because they were basically created in petri dishes, and the petri dishes they use like water and they use other technologies to create, all these entities. That's why when you look at a Middle Eastern man, you got people over from India, they dark as me and you, but they got straight hair. You see what I'm saying? That was a part of the genetic grafting process. That was a part in the cloning process. Yep.
Yeah. So when it comes to this thing called the shadow government, a lot of people talk about the shadow government. A lot of people mention it. A lot of people have heard of it. Who exactly is this shadow government? And then how are they able to remain, it seems like, so influential, but yet so secretive to where a lot of people don't really know a whole lot, if anything, about who and what this shadow government thing is?
It's really this simple. When you used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the Republic. There's no such thing as democracy. So just based on my own independent research, the demonstrative government, the shadow government, the deep state is controlled by democracy. That's where the KKK comes from. That's where eugenics come from, Planned Parenthood, all those things that basically goes against the anatomy of so-called black people. It comes from democracy. That's where it all stems from. Wow. So that's why I said democracy is a demonstrative government. A demonstrative government is a fraudulent system, and the demonstrative government is being used to create these corporations for eugenics. So that's why I said everything is based on energy harvesting. That's why most of the Democrats, you got some Republicans on the Epstein files, but when you look at those, when you're talking about them Epstein files, a lot of them, Obama, Oprah, just the celebrities in itself, most of those celebrities, they were all Democrats.
Yeah. And what's nuts is, but you notice how the media is not. I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to the media unless I'm actually going to do research, for the show or for the channel or what have you. And that's recent that I actually even incorporated doing anything that had to do with politics. But that's only because of how significant I feel like all this stuff is going on. But however, I don't see none of their names linked to or attached to nothing in the so-called media. So how do you feel like that's happening where they're able to kind of fly under the radar or not have anything being leaked out about them?
You talk about the celebrities, right?
And the Democrats.
Well, like I said, you're looking at a war within a war.
Gotcha.
Because, so there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be doing. Like for instance, like with Jay-Z, he changed his name all of a sudden just recently, and then
recently, what's his name now?
Changed his name. It's Jay-Z, but he put like 2 dots at the top of it. It's like he did something weird with his name. But because everything that the Democrats do, they do a lot of distractions and a lot of psychological operations. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna be like, "Oh, Jay-Z put out an album. Your name is on the files, but hey, go ahead and put out an album," because they know that the great majority of so-called Black Americans, they don't want you to wake up, and they know that you so subjected to celebrity worship, and you be like, "Oh, that's my favorite rapper. He can't do no wrong in my eyes. I love Sexy Red." You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, that's where they get you. They get you right there every time to where they sweep everything under the rug with bread and circus.
Yeah.
Bread and circus every time. Distractions.
Yeah. And it's sad because I feel like one of the biggest ones was Barack Obama.
Oh yeah. I talked about Obama. You remember the movie 5 Heartbeats? Remember Dresser?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while,
Dresser,
but yeah, I remember it.
Henry Lennox, that's who taught Obama on how to be Obama. Watch the movie again, and you're gonna be like, bro, that's Obama right there. Yep,
Wow.
because all these because these are deep state actors, all of them.
Yeah.
Just like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, he played one of the clones. I wouldn't say a clone, but he was wearing a skin mask and he was portraying himself to be Joe Biden.
Get out of here! You talking about the movie The Mask or something else?
No, Jim Carrey. I'm just saying Jim Carrey. Hence, he played in the movie The Mask.
Yeah,
because he was the one that was wearing the mask of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I got videos on my channel that shows Joe Biden pulling his skin up to where he can hide, like try to hide like the technology that's connected to it. Yeah.
Wow. Why would they have of
like,
all people? I'm just trying to figure out of all people, why would they want him to do it? Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey's a great actor, man.
No, I know it's phenomenal, but
yeah, he's a great actor.
Is that I'm hearing that they had whacked him too, like because I don't know if you saw the reports with him. It went viral last week, I think, but with I guess him coming to some award ceremony and it looked nothing like him, but people were saying that they offed him too, and that they replaced him with a clone, and to show up at the award ceremony and all this stuff because nobody I guess haven't publicly seen him in a while. So now, as far as your research takes you, do you believe he is still here physically, like still alive, or do you feel like they unalived and offed him too? And then because with the whole Joe Biden thing, if that's true, I can't really see him being so woke that they would want to take him out if you playing along with the system like that.
I don't know. It could be one of those things where, like, I've always had this theory that maybe most of these celebrities, some of them didn't die, and they actually just in a bunker somewhere, just waiting for that reset to happen.
Yeah.
Like they, you know what I'm saying? I felt like they probably they paid their dues to the system and they like, you get access to, what I'm saying? You paid your dues. You paid your 50 million to get access to this bunker. We're gonna pretend that you're dead and your family's gonna be well off, and we're gonna give you in exchange, we're gonna let you have immortality in a bunker system, until the world ends. Some people might, they might make that trade-off.
There was a movie about that a while back on Netflix. It wasn't a major like on a major like a Hollywood film, but it was on Netflix. But it was a movie. I know they got a newer one out on Netflix now, but this one came out a little bit before that. But it seemed like it was like real side work because I could definitely tell. I'm pretty sure they've actually really been doing this, trying to get these bunkers and all this foolishness, trying to, I guess, escape the rapture. But to me, I feel like there's nothing you could do. I don't give a damn how far you try to go into the earth. You can't stop Mother Earth herself from taking you out. If she want to take you out, you're gone. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter to me how much you try to bury and burrow yourself in there because you can't stop earthquakes. You can't stop volcanoes. You know what I'm saying? You can't stop tsunamis, natural disasters that have the ability to, you know what I mean? Like take out, wipe out anything.
And I spoke about that Henry Lennox portraying to be Obama because there's a movie that came out. I forgot what it's like. It's a Spike Lee movie that came out in the 1990s. And cause my dad, he's a real Spike Lee fan. Like he watched a lot of his movies or whatever. Because my dad is the one who told me this, like in believe like it was like 2014.
Wow.
He said that's the man who taught Obama on how to be Obama, right?
Yeah, this shit crazy, man. It's crazy because if I'm not mistaken, Ryan had said that he was a clone too. And I think there's like 3 or 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken, we said on one of the earlier episodes we did.
See, I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. But it's not the movie's not Do the Right Thing. It's the movie. It shows
Mo Better Blues.
He's on the
Mo Better Blues.
No, it's not that movie. It's like they're going to a Million Man March, and he's on and they taking a bus there. It's a whole bunch of black guys on the bus, and the guy that played in 5 Heartbeats, he's on the same thing, and he actually portrays Obama in that movie. I forgot the name. I gotta ask my dad about the movie.
Tribe, if y'all know which movie that is, share that in the comments for us, please. I appreciate you. Definitely bring it up on screen. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. It's a lot. And I did see I was doing some research, and this was recently too, about the Clone Aid organization. And if I'm not mistaken, there was one at least, if not two different rappers, I believe, that
the
came
movie's
out.
called Get on the Bus. There you go.
Get on the Bus. Okay. Got you. Somebody put it in there.
Yep.
That's what's up. Appreciate you, family. Yeah. But there was a couple of rappers, I believe, that came out and said that they were clones and that they had escaped from the Clone Aid facility. Did you see it or hear anything about that?
Yeah, I seen that. I seen but I thought maybe that was all theatrics.
Gotcha.
But you gotta watch the newest House Party movie where Kid Cudi, he said he gets killed in the movie. He said, "Oh, don't worry, they're gonna make another one of me." Yep.
Wow.
Watch
said that?
Yeah, watch the newest House Party movie, and they're inside Obama's house, and then they go to a Freeman. I don't even know how it went that dark, because the movie was just supposed to be about a party, and then all of a sudden everything just went left. Everything just changed in the movie, and I'm like, how do you get to where you drinking the blood and you doing a ritual? All Canaanite culture, which is connected to the shadow government, they showed you everything in real time right there. And he was like, "Oh, they're gonna make another one of me. Don't worry."
Wow. And this is in the new House Party? That's crazy.
Yep. You gotta watch that. Look, bro, watch that. You're gonna be like, how did they fit this in that movie? Like, how?
They just messing up all the classics, man. God damn.
Yeah.
All the classics. Sheesh. That's nuts, House Party. But yeah, that's wild, man. But yeah, there's a lot of different conspiracies going on about a lot of different celebrities. They're saying Kevin Hart, he's a clone. When he had that bad accident years ago, that was the end of him for real, but then they cloned him and brought him back. So it's a lot. There's a lot definitely going on in regards to what's happening. A whole lot. And so as far as where we are now, I can't really tell. It's kind of hard for me to gauge it, but I'm trying to see how deep this is going to go in regards to the war. If they're going to, we'll talk about, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, about if it'll get to that level where, we'll start to see the nukes and all the other major, like weaponry being used that can cause mass, hysteria and catastrophe. But whether it gets to that point or not, like we started out in the beginning of the show when we talk about the Strait of Hormuz, that within itself, without even using them type of bombs and those types of missiles, can still cause catastrophe. Because if it does get shut down, or they blow it up, or do anything that can, stop all of the trade that comes through there, you're talking about not just oil. You're not talking about, you're talking about oil, food, resources, with agriculture. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different dynamics to how that could literally muck up the entire globe. So it ain't just a U.S.-Iran thing. We're talking about the whole world will have to pay some sort of, price if that happens. So how many countries do you think would intervene to stop it from going that far? Or do you feel like all of the heads of state and all the leaders of all the corporations and countries are in it together to blow up the whole planet and just fuck it all?
I think it's because remember, before we get into that, I actually said this on my channel about Henry Lennox playing Obama. I said that like in 2021 on my own YouTube channel. I've been talking to everybody who's been following me. If you're in the chat, you already know I said this many a times.
Yeah.
But anyhow, when it comes to that, the people got to forget that you have a United Nations, and the United Nations, that is the blueprint for the New World Order. So in order to have a New World Order, you got to understand that there's a hierarchy system and a monarchy system that is collaborated with all the world leaders. So in my opinion, I believe that this can be a psyop for what is to come, as far as like the biggest psyop, to shut down not just the Western grid, but to shut down the whole grid all throughout America. Not America, but all throughout the world from an international standpoint. So, but if you cut off the Strait of Hormuz or whatever, that is going to be your inception to leave the world behind.
Yeah, which that's definitely one of the major ones we're gonna get into. So with us running up on time, man, that's definitely one that I've seen that one. I wanted to watch it before we did the show, but I just didn't get the opportunity to get around to it. However, I did see it, so I know I can remember a good vast majority of it. When it comes to all the things that were shown in that movie, and even just me asking the question now, I remember some of the things with nature they were showing. I remember, of course, the power grid, but there was a lot, and I mean a lot, that was put into that movie that was prophecy as to what we're seeing the beginning of now. So what would be the reason the Obamas would produce a movie that would share so much foretelling or prophetic information in the movie?
It's a part of their law. They got to give you the truth before it actually happens. That's what they try to balance out their karma. But and to show you in the movie, they had the big boat. It was the White Lion. You seen that? You know what I'm saying?
I can't remember that part, but I definitely saw it though, because I know I saw the movie. Oh wait, you talking about when
the boat
it was coming from sea and it kind of like came up and it went all the way and crashed into the shore?
Yeah, because that represented the fall of maritime, which is water law. Because now you're going back to the land, which is military law, and military law is constitutional law, and constitutional law is tribal law for the indigenous people. That's why the Prophet Noble Ali, he's bringing a black woman up from the water and bringing her back to the land, because the water represents the Canaanite culture, but the land represents the matriarch. So that's the diametrical differences in between the matriarch and the patriarch and things of that nature. But that's what that movie is demonstrating. It demonstrates the fall of the Albion European system in totality. That's why the grid went down, and when the grid went down, that's when the airplanes started to fall out the sky, and then you had a civil war. In fact, the movie Leave the World Behind, the sequel for the movie was Civil War. You gotta watch that. You get it's the same organization that produced the movie Leave the World Behind. It's the same organization that produced Civil War. Because remember they was off on the vacant, they was across the water. You could see like bombs and everything. Like it was like a civil war going on the other side. But they was in the rural areas. They was like on the outskirts. They wasn't, with the great majority of the population. So that's why I was saying, like, that movie is really just showing you like what is to come after the grid goes down, and then you're gonna have a civil war.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like there's a civil war going on now, but inside of the U.S. corporation with the Deems versus the Reds and the Shadow versus them all. Like, it look like that's happening now in regards to what they got going on.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to oh no, I was gonna say shout out to brother Benzino021. We appreciate it, family. He said, brother Bdell, that Meteorite Man movie was amazing. Love the ending of it. LOL. I really wish we could come together on a high vibrational energy wave, like people come together for sports and concerts.
Man, specifically on that movie, it shows you how he was in that the culmination process of resurrecting his physiology with the meteor. The meteor was really ether. It was the dodecahedron. It's the quintessential alchemical element, the fifth element that has the ability to resurrect the carbon body in itself. So when he touched that meteor, that's when he touched the fruit grew big and things of that nature. Any book that he touched or whatever, he understood everything inside the book, because what gamma radiation does, it has the ability to absorb energy, whether if it's negative or positive. The same thing with melanin. That's why they push that's why they push drugs on the black community so much, because they know it would be harder for us to get off of it. Because melanin, well, specifically neuromelanin, it is so intelligent that it has the ability to absorb anything negative or positive.
Yeah.
So the same thing. So when he touched that book, whatever it's got good information or misinformation inside the book. Every book that he touched, he was able to galvanize the information inside the book. And then they showed you the Golden Lords. The Golden Lords, they were showing you, they was basically the personification of the black Canaanite, because they had the blonde hair. You see what I'm saying? It's just all the movies tell a story. They just said recently about a meteor. They said it has the ability to resurrect junk DNA.
A meteor?
Yeah, I talked about that probably like two videos ago.
I tell you what do you feel like? I don't know if you did any research on it or not, but I got a video I'm working on putting something together for Simeon Toko, because there's been a lot of people in the comments asking about who he is and just want to know more about it. Because I know we spoke about it on our last interview, but he's come up on the channel a lot of times. But with that being said, what do you feel like the superpower or element that he possessed in order for him to be able to defeat death and to regenerate itself multiple times after they did everything they could to try to kill him.
You talk about Simeon Toko?
Yeah. What do you feel like his superpower? Like, what element did he have, that, or what was he tapped into, you know what I mean, that other people haven't figured out yet that gave him the ability to do that?
I forgot the book, but it talks about this element called element 115. And element 115 is really just all elements combined that's on the periodic table. That energy is inside so-called black people.
Yeah.
Because element 115 has the ability to resurrect the X gene, which turns you into an X-Man, Magneto. You see what I'm saying? And then, this is just based on my own independent research. I believe in the beginning of time that black women had 3 X chromosomes, not just 1. Because, in order to create this energy of parthenogenesis, you need that X gene, that sex gene, in order to amalgamate within yourself to create, genetic grafting, because the X chromosome is 5 times larger than the Y chromosome. So that lets you know that the X chromosome is when it's able to activate, it's the apex of your true spiritual abilities. And that's where you get your sexual energy is your spiritual abilities. So that, and there's a reason why when you're talking about pornography and they say sex, it's got XXX. They could have used any other letter, but they used XXX, and that's how, from my opinion, I think some of the first women on the planet, they all had 3 X chromosomes, and they used their sexual power to amplify their spiritual power.
That's how they were able to give birth, by being androgynous.
Yeah, because they got those prokaryotic cells, and a prokaryote is the first organism in the universe, and black women, they have that inside their wombs. You know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things where the patriarchal energy has reversed the frequency of the black woman, and now if she was able to tap back into that energy, she would become Storm, and Storm in X-Men, where you have Oregon energy. Because Oregon energy is what gives you the ability to control the weather. Yep.
Yes, sir. I keep Oregon by me everywhere. I got it in the backdrop. I got it here where I keep it on me somewhere. Because it's powerful. And in Storm, she can be compared to, in the Orisha pantheon, she can be compared to Oya. And then, if I'm not mistaken, in the Kemetic culture, I think she would be equivalent to similar to Sekhmet, if I'm not mistaken, right? As far as being able to be destructive, she's a warrior, female warrior deity.
Yep.
Yeah, now that's deep. So the chromosome that you're talking about, as far as element 115 with Simeon Toko, is that something similar, or do you feel like that's something different too? When you talk about like starfish being able to regenerate, or mermaids and mermen being able to regenerate, is that the similar element, or is it a different element?
I think it's pretty much the same element, because what I got from reading about element 115, I'm like, this acts just like the dodecahedron. It acts as a form of ether. Because ether in itself is actually what you call the Christ energy. Because Christ, he had the ability to resurrect himself. That's reincarnation. Reincarnation is regeneration. You cut my arm off, it's going to grow right back. That's what starfish do. You know what I'm saying? Because he had immortalized cell lines. You cannot kill ether because it's connected to the law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted.
That's facts. Always was, always is, and always motherfucking will be.
Yeah.
Excuse the motherfucking. But nah, that's real though, because and that's the thing that I always, time to time, spirit just kind of interferes and speaks that through me, because I feel like everybody's not able to process all this war tactic and all this doom and gloom stuff that's being penetrating our minds and our subconscious minds, etc. And so it does take a toll on a lot of us, and it does take a toll on a lot of people, especially when you factor in the finances part, you factor in the food shortages, you factor in the gas prices, factor in the job shortages. So there's so many different dynamics that if we don't have a certain set of stability within ourselves, within our mindset, within our emotional state or emotional intelligence, etc., it could drive people off the edge. And I'm seeing more now than ever, like a lot of people who are not only committing suicide and taking themselves out, but like taking out their whole families. Like there's a lot of reports going around where people. I saw one in Florida maybe a week or two ago, man. This lady literally took out, I think she murdered all her children. I think like 3 or 4 or 5 children, and then took herself out. And this is like, yo, you know what I mean? So there's definitely a lot that I feel like at stake that's playing into all these different types of scenarios where people are really just like ready to check out, and they're doing it by
They
all
can
means.
they have mental energetic technology to put thoughts inside of your head.
Yes, I believe
They
that
can do
wholeheartedly
that.
too. Yeah, I know.
They can do that.
Because there's people who, like, if you on social media too much, you can literally come off of it and then go look on the website or the internet for something else, and then boom, you go back to social media, that same app or same ad or whatever. And I know they got metadata that can track, your phone, your IPs and all that stuff, but at the same time, they do have the technology that they can put, mind control. They can put thoughts into our minds.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because a lot of those frequencies is connected to the data, and the data system is controlled by DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and which controls, the great majority of artificial intelligence. So, frequencies and everything, like you were saying, like the towers and everything portraying themselves to be trees or whatever, satellites, they emitting frequencies to basically, keep people in a degraded state. And make you go crazy. There's a movie you got to watch called Cell. The frequencies from the phone had people going, mentally crazy because it was basically manipulating the 2 frontal lobes of the brain. And once the 2 frontal lobes of the brain dematerialize, that puts you in a state of zombification to where you can basically be hijacked on a spiritual level.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, and it's crazy because I had a ceremony this weekend, and one of the things with certain ceremonies that we do, it's definitely recommended to wear white, all white, it's specifically for a certain set amount of time, because when you have certain different type of healing sessions, or you have certain types of blockages or certain type of energy that's things removed from you, you're exposed from a spiritual perspective, to a lot of different energies, the positive energies and the negative energies. So these negative energies, which I would equate to what you would probably call an Archon, they have the ability to see. And so if they see a person has just went through certain types of ceremonies or went through certain type of healing sessions or whatever the case may be, like one of the first things they're going to do, they want to go over there and suck off of and leech off of that energy, like a vampire or, a parasite or a flea, or a tick with a dog. So it's like the white is a sacred way of kind of repellent. It's almost like having a bulletproof vest on spiritually, whenever you've had something done like that. So that way it kind of repels the dark forces, the dark energies from trying to come towards you to try to suck off and feed off of your light. So it sounds like that's happening on a mass or global scale, especially here in the States. What would be any type of defense mechanisms that you would say the general population, especially like the people who listen to your channel, people who listen to this channel, what would be your recommendation in regards to creating some sort of prevention or at least some sort of protection against all these different types of waves and towers that are being, we're being attacked by?
Psychic self-defense, and also detox from genetically modified foods that's coming from the Food and Drug Administration, because the genetically modified foods, they correspond with the parasites in the body, who are also extraterrestrial entities that's being controlled by archonic forces through the dark side of the moon. Because you notice, when they say when you get a full moon, they say the hospital's on red alert. Those are the parasites in the body that's tether connected to the moon, because the moon in itself is a quantum satellite, and the satellite in itself is being used to make this person do something crazy, make this person go unalive somebody, hey, make this YN go over here, go spin the block. It's the parasites in the body that is being fed by the genetically modified food. So detoxification is actually a process that people should be doing to maintain to the point where they can be energetically centered.
Yeah. That's real, and it's extremely harmful for the children too, man, because they haven't gotten the opportunity for their minds to develop, to a certain level in certain, growth process in regards to it being able to kind of hopefully detour or fight off some of these thoughts and some of these attacks. But it's definitely happened to people, of all ages. I feel like all stages of life. Somebody said they're killing. Hold on, let me bring this up real quick. Joseph Eubanks said they're killing a killing room with Nick Cannon. Did you see that movie? I didn't see that one.
I haven't checked that out. I'm gonna check it out. Like I said, I'm a movie nerd, man. I'm comic book nerd, movie nerd. So that's what I know. They put a lot of the truth in the movie. So I'm gonna look that up. Killing
facts.
Killing.
Yeah, that's real. Okay. Well, I know we're running right up into the time, man, that we had allotted for. So you got to go now. You got a minute for any Q&A. You got to get up out of here.
I can do some Q&A. Yeah, I got 10 minutes to do the Q&A.
Okay, so I see. Well, let me give a shout out to the supporters. Shout out to DJ KS9CK. Appreciate the love, family. He said they showed us in Blade 2 about the U.S. cloning thing as well.
Facts. Yep.
Wow.
And also in Blade, they show you the detrimental robotoids. They show you the big fat beings that live in the caverns of the earth. I think that's on Blade 1, but those are
the Duros.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I know. They got elephant noses, or like their faces got long, nasty. Yeah, I know about them. Wow.
They also show you in the movie, it's I forgot the movie's name.
They were in that movie with Tupac in them. All around the world, sing song.
Nothing but trouble.
They was in that movie too. That's funny. That's the first time I ever seen those in a movie, actually. The Duros.
Now look. Now that notice it also talks about where they was at. They were stationed in Valcomania. That was the city they was in. And the Valkans or whatever, you have there's a city in Europe called Valcom, and there's basically like a cavern system, and they talk about like Deros and stuff, and they have underground beings. Yep.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again because I sure remember that. It's funny because I knew something was off about it, but it felt like something was right about it. And I was young. I don't even know, like, you probably was a baby back then because that was like when I was little when that came out. But I just knew there was something to that though, man. It stood out to me. So it's nuts.
The names was Bobo and Devil.
Yeah, that's what twins. Wasn't it? There's two of them.
Yeah, it's two of them, Bobo and Devil. You notice the name Devil.
Yeah,
because a Dero is actually a devil because a Dero is basically a inverted version of a tarot.
Wow.
Yep.
That's nuts, man. Absolutely nuts. Freeze on Trumpet said, I believe the summit of the Americas was to stack the deck against Cuba. What do you think about that?
I agree. I agree because what Donald Trump is trying to do, he's basically trying to drain the swamp. And when you're draining the swamp, that's connected to the shadow government, the deep state, who controls drug harvesting, the cartel, human trafficking, organ harvesting. All those things is connected to that the deep state. They have, all those hedonistic practices.
Yeah, they some devils for sure. That's real. It's unbelievable. The truth is so hard to believe. It truly is, and literally is unbelievable. For real. Let me see what else we got in here. Jedi Sage said, downloading their consciousness, white people into black people V2K. I'm not sure what the V2K part is. What's that?
I don't know what that is either, but that is also, they try to do horizontal gene transfer. And it operates on 3 different forms of methodology, which is transformation, conjugation, and transduction. And you can transmute the consciousness out of somebody and put it inside a different body.
Yeah.
But that's only if you have the neuromelanin. But what they do is they have an inverted form of how they transmute consciousness. What they do is they take their consciousness and they put it inside artificial intelligence. So that's what they try to do as far as like living on for like many different years. They showed you in the movie Get Out.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but that's exactly what I was going for. It's so funny. Look, I had my little tea, but I ain't had no spoon. But if I had a spoon, I'd have did like the lady was doing in the movie because that's literally what they was doing. I didn't want to cut your wisdom, but I was sure going to say that's why that movie was profoundly powerful. I couldn't believe how much real stuff that he was able to put into that movie and show. But that's really like exactly what they be doing for real.
Yeah, in the movie 28 years later, they show you the Deros too. I did a breakdown on the movie 28 Days Later. It shows you the Flugerods. The Flugerods was basically they were like the cannibalistic cave people. And then you had the Deros, they had these fat zombies, and they was just like sliding all on the ground. You gotta watch the movie, man. And that's all I
gotta watch 28 Days Later. That's funny.
Y'all watch
Yeah,
it.
I'll have to check that one out again. Let me see. Lord Sleepy LaShawn 2712 says, sorry, I don't have any money to send as of now. Yet Jesus says not to worship him nor praise him. Is this correct, Bdell or Orisha? I've read it in the Bible.
Yeah, because in actuality, when you look at the word Jesus, the letter J wasn't invented into the 1600s. And when you say the word Jesus, you're really saying the word Jesus. And the word Jesus comes from the word gas. So when you're saying Jesus, you're really saying ether, because that gas is ether. So when you're talking about, Jesus in itself, you're really talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Only if you have the ability to activate that Christ consciousness. Psalms 82 verse 6, it says that you are gods. So that means that you're a microcosm of the macrocosm. So if you're a God, you're actually the Jesus, that they speak of in that Bible. You know what I'm saying? That's why Simeon Toko, he said, there's going to be thousands of me, just like me. It's going to be thousands of people who have the same ability.
Yeah, and that's why I love that series Supercell. And it's amazing because I was in the comments either today or yesterday. I try to get in there to chop it up with the tribe as much as I can, but I saw somebody pretty much along the lines of there's a lot of people. Pretty much there's a hierarchy when it comes to the people who control the world, and a lot of people, all they do is get online and just talk shit, and they ain't really about that life, and they ain't really doing nothing in real life, or wouldn't do nothing, this and that, da. And initially I started to go a little deeper, but I just left it at, speak on what you know, because I know everybody's not that way. Everybody ain't letting everything slide, and everybody ain't laying down, everybody ain't folding. And I do know there are real supernatural powers on this planet right now, because I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm talking about the two on here and the mind's eye. So I know what I've seen, and I'm serious. I know what I've seen, and I know it wasn't fake, fictional, or dream. So you got to speak on what you know, because I've seen some real shit that there ain't no person or being on this planet that could deal with some of that. So it's like, we got to not always allow this system and these attacks of because it is a lot. And I'm not saying that we can't, be inundated and we can't be made to feel inferior or hopeless, but that's exactly why they do it. It's nothing more than the Wizard of Oz effect. You know what I'm saying? The minute that we allow ourselves to let that so-called, masked or hidden, playwright or Pinocchio puppet control motherfucker get that kind of control, they're gonna continue to run amok with it. But the minute you be like, you got me fucked up, we can get it, then it changes. It's just like going to school. If a bully smacks you upside your head every single day, you know what I'm saying? You gonna allow him to smack you upside. He gonna do it every single day. But the day you turn around and you bust him clean in that snot box and cave his face in, I think he's gonna think twice about smacking you in the head the next day. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I know there's a lot of people here or beings here that's not allowing that bullet.
I'm glad you brought up that movie too. I'm glad you brought up the movie Wizard of Oz, because that's the Christ story. Because Dorothy, the lion, the dog, the Tin Man, the lion, those were basically fragmented parts of herself. So when you go, the Yellow Brick Road is actually talking about the gold elixir. When you go from lead to gold, that is the Christ consciousness, because the gold elixir goes up the 33rd vertebrae. And then it goes into the medulla oblongata, and that's where you get the corpus callosum, which is the wings of a dove. But you got to be, activated by the heart space too, in order to receive the energy, because that was what the Emerald City was. The Emerald City was the God. And the God in itself is the spirit of Melchizedek. The spirit of Melchizedek is Tahuti Thoth, heart chakra. It's the same story.
Yeah, that's facts. And even though in the Orisha pantheon, Ogun, that's that same deity too when it comes to the heart chakra, and the warrior, and you know what I mean, like the god of iron. And he he could easily be the most ultimate warrior of them all, but at the same time, that same ability he can transmute to be the most proficient and the best, laser sharp focused surgeon of all time. So he can use that power at his will to destroy, but at the same time, he can also use that power at his will to heal. You know what I mean? So it's like that is an aspect of us. I feel like we all have that, and it goes back to what you were saying on the last one about keeping that energy, that shadow energy. Sometimes you got to tap in and let the shadow work out. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to pop out and show. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's some real,
because especially during this time period, as much as truth is coming out, that people gonna try you. They're gonna try you. And that's why I said you got to be tapped in. You need your dark side. You got to have your dark side, because you don't want to just be so love and light. Somebody smack you up the head and you ain't gonna do nothing. So that's why I was saying, man, like that's why I keep telling people, some of your most authentic people, they got both energies. You know what I'm saying? They not, your cookie cutter, let me be, what they call it, just act civilly or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like you
docile?
I forgot what it's, yeah,
docile?
Not docile, but they just politically correct. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
Real authentic people.
Being a yes man, just going along with everything, just because the rest, like going around with the crowd, like
So with me, like I said, I'm tapped into the information, but it can get dark real quick. But you know what I'm saying? Like I just, you just gotta be energetically centered.
Yeah. And that's the creme de la creme right there, center, having that balance. You know what I mean? Because it even goes back to when you were talking about people who drink and smoke and all that. Everything in moderation. I ain't gonna say everything, but most things in moderation is cool. I mean, even like things that are not good for us, you know what I'm saying? But when it's all said and done, nothing can have complete total control, because if so, then that's a it's destruction waiting to happen.
And that's why I practice the art of Stoicism. Stoicism is a lost art in modern men. You gotta be stoic. You gotta have that stoic energy. To the point, like being stoic is kind of like you got emotions, but you don't show them, because you know that people can use it in a form of a weakness.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
that's a real thing. Shout out to I'm pulling back up. 4.4.444 said, how can they get a signed copy of your book?
Just I guess, well, I don't really do the emails or whatever, but just DM me on Instagram, and then I'll try my best to get it to you. But for those who haven't got it, it's called The Sacred Book of the Chosen, and it's on Amazon.
And family, check out the show description too. Once the show is actually finished rendering and processing and all that, I always add the socials. I add his channels, all the things that the ways you can get in contact with him and his products and services, always added in the show description. So anytime you see a guest, just check out the show description, and any of their contact information, socials, products, services, websites, etc., will be in the descriptions. And if y'all see any shows that don't have it, please let me know so I can put it in there. But for the most part, I feel like I put it in all the shows, just to make sure that people have access to getting in contact with all the guests.
I think I told you, but they actually, I've been in contact with people. They actually kind of want to turn the book into a Netflix series, but the only way I won't do it, because you know how everything is based in propaganda. The only way I do something like that, you're not going to put no same sex, hedonistic stuff in the show. You're not going to slide that in there. You're not going to do none of that, because you know what I'm saying, like, because that's basically the same thing as selling out.
If you don't negotiate none of your creative control over it, bro. None of it. That's the only way they can do that. Is if if you negotiate any of your creative control, that's when they'll step in and swoop you on up, man. So just don't give up none of that, bro. None of it.
And another thing, you got to put your name in a sole proprietorship, and then when you sign contracts, when you signing over your nature, when they says that you want to be an actor or artist, don't cross out the word actor and artist and put creator, because that no longer puts you under the jurisdiction, under the Act of Parliament.
I'm glad you said that too. That's big facts.
Yeah,
big facts. That's what's up. Okay, well, let me see. I think that might be most of them. I know we're running close now. So at first Sync said, I wish I hadn't gone through Amazon so I could have gotten a signed copy. We'll see if we can work something out for you at First Sync. I appreciate all the love and support, so I'll definitely get with Bdell and see if I can work out something maybe to
I'm gonna send I'm gonna send you one. You give me your address after the show so I can send you one of these books.
Okay, got you. I appreciate it. That's what's up. No, I appreciate it, man. And we definitely got to get you back on and promote. Hell, we need to, have a show where we can chop it up and spend some time promoting that too, or I could bring you into the private community. However, whatever you got to do to me to put it out there, man. You know, we was talking about this like before you even wrote it. I'm like, yo, anything I could do to help, you know, put it out there, push the narrative, and, you know, help the sales grow, man. I'm all for it for sure.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about making a science fiction book, but I'm going to scrap it, and it was going to be based on the eugenic system, on how they're going to have the American government is working with some type of entity, even though we know this is real, but I got to classify it as science fiction.
Gotcha.
And I think I'm going to scrap that because there's so much going on. I want to put out a publication that coincides with the timeline that we're actually on. So, so
it's so much, bro. It's like once you put it out, who knows how much more it's gonna cost? That's the thing that's nuts about how much stuff is coming out right now, man. Like it's unbelievable, like for real. It really is. Really unbelievable.
Because this book is really just showing you the timeline between 2025 to 2030, and I need to come out with something that talks about 2030 to 2043, because that is 13 years apart, and that is the completion code, because 2043 is actually a 9-year. And according to a lot of Dr. York's work, he said that's when the firmament cracks open, because that's when you have the vortex. The vortex opens up from 1943, 53, 63, all the way up until 2043. And when that vortex opens up, that is basically the collapse of, you know, Western civilization in totality. And then the end of 2033, that is actually the end of the unification process of Gemini and Uranus. That's the end of the Christ energy. And it's also the end of 2033. You see the number 33. That's resurrection. You know what I'm saying? So I'm actually going to do a book probably about that whole process right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of that ties into the Nipsey Hussle story too, because he was 33, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I got a chapter in here. It's not a whole chapter, but I talk about Nipsey in the book because he had a Christ archetype.
Yeah, well, he definitely was here in these Ase streets over the last few days, because I definitely was shouting him out for that marathon we had going on Thursday and Friday, man. So shout out to the God Nip. You know, definitely the marathon continues for sure. That's what's up. Well, I definitely appreciate you, brother. I know we definitely went, you know, a little bit past the time we initially said, but I definitely give gratitude and thanks for you holding it down for the Q&A for the tribe, man. And if there's anything you want to share, you know, with the family before we get up out this thing, it's all yours.
Stay energetically centered. Stop watching porn. Stop smoking and drinking. You know, like I said, do everything in moderation. Because too much of anything is bad for you. When you stop watching porn, you get your energy back. When you stop smoking and drinking, you get your mind back. When you start going to the gym, you get your discipline back. And you start making a little bit of money, that's when you get your confidence back. Because all those elements is what's going to connect you to the 4 basic elements of the soul. So that's how you stay tapped in. So just be energetically centered, and just don't go overboard with anything. Just, keep a balance.
Facts. Yes, sir. T Renee 6052. If you can check out. I mean, really, you can go to almost every show on here, but the last, I think, 2 shows that were uploaded. The one As the Bombs Blow, Armageddon Begins, and the Trump Epps Blow, Mamageddon Begins. Those 2 shows we talk extensively on the symbolism of the number 13, but it means mother, the matriarch. Long story short, but it's way deeper than that. So, but we definitely have, and we have another one too. I think Cosmic Consciousness Activation. We had mothers. 2 of the mothers was on here speaking about that when it comes to our kin numbers, and so it's a very powerful number, because we're supposed to be operating on a 13-month calendar that really coordinates with the universe and from an astrological aspect. But because we were in a patriarchal system where they created that 12-month calendar based off of their egos, and some of them wanting to have months named after them, and more importantly, it was all about mind control and us paying taxes. So there's a lot that we're unraveling, we're unlearning to relearn. So yeah, stay tuned, stay tapped in, tuning into the channel, man, because we definitely break down a whole lot of all these things that we're talking about in a very vast, multi-dimensional way and perspective. So appreciate
salute to everybody. Salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to your channel. As always,
sir.
You know what I'm saying? It's a good time coming over here to share information. So, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Likewise, brother. And look, I didn't know after the first show what them rice bowls was. I was like, man, what the heck is going on? But then I realized I didn't know it was a good thing or bad thing. I got to figure this out. And I forgot how I figured it out. But I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I didn't know what the hell was going on. But shout out to the Rice Bowl crew.
Yeah, my last name is Rice, and I wanted to create an energy signature for myself, like, because that's how I study a lot of people who made names for themselves, and they always have some type of energy signature attached to them. So I was like, let me see, you know, because they be like, oh, he cooking. So I'm like, okay, my last name's Rice. I'm cooking up information. I'm cooking up knowledge. Throw the rice bowls in the chat. You know what I'm saying? That's my energy signature. So that's why I run with that.
That's dope. That's what's up. Yeah, it's funny. I got an idea for one for the tribe, but yeah, I definitely that's dope. So, yes, sir. But nah, man, for sure, man. Always. So yeah, I definitely get with you, brother. We'll see. Hopefully we can line something up with the three of us. I'm gonna holler at Big Chief again too. See if we can get that triangle offense popping off in the very near future. And definitely be up, you know, with you, man, to see when we can lock in the next one and make it happen and do what do, bro.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Likewise. You already know. All right, man. So I definitely holler at you and we'll chop it up and get something else popping.
All right, peace.
Yes, sir. Peace. All right, family. I appreciate all y'all for tapping in with us, holding us down, and doing what y'all do, showing love, appreciation, and connection, and you know what I mean? All the things that we do in that Ase crew in the comments and tearing it up, you know, sharing information that we be talking about that we don't have the opportunity to look up and find. You know, I appreciate all that. Thanks again for all of the new subscribers, the new channel members, the new Patreon members, the new YouTube channel memberships as well. We got a lot coming up this week. It's going to be a big week. I was hoping to have the ebook converted into audiobook for today, but shout out to everybody who was able to get their copy of the ebook for how to honor your ancestors daily. I'm working on putting it into audio and a visual presentation, so that'll be available this week. And then shout out to everybody who I spoke to about the content creation community as well. That one's almost done. I was hoping to have it ready by this week, but it didn't happen today because I ran into a couple of things that I wasn't expecting. But we're going to definitely get that cracking in the very near future as well. So for those who were on the call yesterday, I'll be having a KIN number, Solar Seal, Galactical Signature presentation up in the Patreon ASAP expeditiously. So definitely gratitude to everybody who, you know, shows the love and support, man. We appreciate every single one of y'all, family. United we stand, divided we fall. It ain't over till we win. I am your host, Orisha Bemi. This is the African Spirituality Experience. We will see y'all on the next episode, family. We out. Peace.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé ṣàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and praise your